Hello and welcome to the latest Power Play DVD. D4 sidelines, a repertoire for black. So on this DVD I'm going to be looking at lines where white plays D4, but instead of playing a Queen's Gambit with C4, instead plays more modestly with variations such as the collar variation, or perhaps Bishop f4, the London system, and various others. In a moment I'll give you a detailed overview exactly which variations I'm going to be looking at here. But basically it's D4 sidelines, and I should emphasize on this DVD I'm presenting a repertoire for black, so very much from the black point of view. And this fits in with my two previous DVDs for black on the Queen's Gambit declined and a repertoire for black against the Catalan. So let's talk about these lines. They've always been very popular at club level for white because, well, really they're systems. They're not, complicated variations that you need to know. So they're a very practical choice, and because of that, they're becoming increasingly popular at professional level as well. Professionals want to play a game of chess. Generally, they don't want to be, caught up in long, complicated computer variations. Sometimes they play that way, but very often they just want to get the pieces out and play a game of chess. So these systems are becoming increasingly popular, so as black we need to know exactly what to do against them. Looking at it from the black point of view, actually when my opponent plays like this, generally I'm very happy because there's no immediate pressure on black's centre, and that gives black the freedom to develop very easily, usually to castle very easily, and there's no real threat to the centre with pawns. So yeah, it gives black much more freedom. Sometimes if white isn't playing moves like c4, it gives black the chance to actually dominate the centre, control the centre with pawns. So I think we need to look at these systems very positively from black's viewpoint. Having said that, it's hard to refute these systems. They're not so bad, so we need to treat them with respect as well. But generally I have a few aims when I play the opening with black, and with white as well, but actually more so with black. I want to get my pieces out sensibly, put them to decent squares. I want to come out of the opening with a sound pawn structure. I want to have a safe king position, and I'd also like to get a position out of the opening where I have dynamic chances so that I can play for a win. There's enough juice in the position so I can actually play for a win, and I hope that my recommendations on this DVD will give you exactly those things. So let's just take a look and see exactly what I'm going to be covering. So D4 for white, D5. Now I should say move order is pretty flexible in these D4 sidelines. So I know many of you will be starting with knight f6, and one can get to the Queen's Gambit like this as well, and only later D5. So I'm very aware of that, and I will point out move order variations as we go along. Anyway, let's start with D5. I'm assuming we're going to be Queen's Gambit players. So in the first few games I'm going to be looking at the collar and the Zuckertort variations. Start with E3. And so on. So I'm going to be looking at this, the Zuckertort variation there, but also the collar variation, more normal with knight d2 and then knight e5. So the first game will be Stefanova against Ho Yifan, which is the Zukertort variation. Then Abigail against Krivoruchko with knight d2. Then I'm going to be looking at where white plays c4 here. So, of course, this is related to the Queen's Gambit, but white hasn't brought the bishop out to g5. So this is a more modest system, and you can often get this through the Queen's Indian, but sometimes with the Queen's Gambit as well. So I'm going to be looking at the games Dizdarovich against Miles and Portish against Karpov. Then I want to be looking at, I'm going to be looking at the London system. Again, move order is quite variable, but basically systems where white plays bishop f4. And I'm going to be looking at the game between Anish Giri and Wesley So that has this remarkable move, knight h5, very interesting. I'll go into that in some detail. Then I want to be looking at other systems where white plays bishop f4. So there's the Jabava system with bishop f4. So it's rather strange. The knight comes to c3, blocking the c-pawn, and then plays bishop f4, speciality of the sensational Georgian player Badur Jobava, who's had some very interesting games with this, but I think black can neutralise this quite easily. I'll also be looking at the old Veresov variation, and theory hasn't changed much in that variation for years. I'm going to be looking at an old game between Lev Albert and Mikhail Tal. I will, of course, be looking at the Trompovsky, or the Trompovsky attack. So bishop g5 is the Trompovsky attack, but I'm going to be recommending this line with d5. So, of course, one can get this via the normal Trompovsky and then d5. And I'll be looking at the games between Doric and Burkic, and then Pert and Kostin. I will be looking at the legendary Blackmar-Diemer-Gambit. Also relatively popular at club level. I don't think it's particularly good for white, and we'll be looking at that, so I'll show you a nice antidote to that. There are many variations you can choose from, but I think the one I'm recommending is pretty reliable and very straightforward. And let me see, is there a last one? Ah, yes. I forgot to mention, I will be looking at, instead of taking on f6 here, I'll be looking at knight d2, so kind of Trompovsky sideline, which you'll find in the game between Nippon Nishi and Wesley So. I think that just about covers everything. As I said, move order is pretty flexible, so I will try and look at those move order tricks and different move orders and try to explain what the differences are with that. But anyway, on with the DVD, and I do hope you enjoyed. And of course, I will be asking questions in the middle of these games to keep you on your toes, so look out for those. Thanks.